In 1983, just as Art arrived in Vegas, the tax was slashed again from 2% to just 0.25%, and that peculiar profession became a potentially profitable one. The Nevada handle, the total amount placed in bets, had ballooned by 450% after the first tax cut and rose to $894 million after the second in 1983. And with all the money that was gushing into this world, Art's aspiration to become Hollywood's next leading man was put on hold. Art had a handsome face and, even in his 20s, a dignified presence. He floated above the wise guys and fleas around him, but without an air of condescension. Within a few years, by 1987, he was running the sportsbook at Caesars, at 26 years old, the youngest director in town. A few years later, he was cutting the ribbon at the entrance of the glittery $17 million state-of-the-art Superbook at the Hilton, a magical realm in which men sat in leather chairs sipping on stalagnias at 11 a.m., all of them gazing up at one of the 53 flashing cinema-scale TV screens with live sporting events beamed in from around the world. The Superbook was the first of its kind, a case study for every casino in town on how to create the ultimate man cave for any out-of-towner. It was now the early 1990s, and Art was leading a new venture that was even more ambitious. If he, Vic, and Roxy could persuade casino and racetrack operators outside Nevada to let them provide the infrastructure and expertise to bring sports betting to their states, then they could be the ones leading the movement to take sports gambling nationwide. A tsunami, they believed, was coming. At the time, legislatures in more than a dozen states, salivating over the prospect of increased tax revenue, were considering proposals to legalize gambling on sports. The potential value of the network of connected lines that the three of them were trying to build was unknowable. Even to take a stab at a ballpark estimate by extrapolating the numbers was a pointless exercise in imagination. If the handle in the state of Nevada, where the population was less than 1 million, was nearly $1 billion, then the nationwide handle, with New York, Boston, Philly, and Los Angeles all in play, well, the numbers were mind-blowing. Vic put the figure for the potential nationwide handle at, conservatively, somewhere around $300 billion. Other longtime Vegas bookies floated $1 trillion with a straight face. To anyone who thought that Vic's number was preposterous, to anyone who didn't seem to grasp how pervasive this activity was, Vic liked to note that he knew of a town of 1,000 in rural Wisconsin that alone had 3 illegal bookies to service people's desire to bet the farm on the Packers. In pockets across the country, plenty of casinos and racetracks, it turned out, wanted to listen to what the 3 men from the desert had to say. From the dingy boardwalk in Atlantic City, New Jersey, to the regal Churchill Downs estate in Kentucky and the quaint Laurel Park racetrack in Maryland, where the owners were most eager to pounce. This could happen fast, Art thought, as the track in Laurel began erecting booths and hanging TV sets for an on-site sportsbook. But as word trickled out that a racetrack just outside the Beltway was sniffing around the possibility of expanding sports betting, opposition voices, many out of Maryland and Washington, D.C., suddenly emerged, and loudest of all were other local racetrack owners who thought that sports gambling would steer their customers away from betting on horses. That it was Laurel that was the most interested initially turned out to be the most harmful thing for our project, says Art. It was right outside of Washington, and once there was some opposition, well, there was a lot of it. In late 1991, those racetrack owners took meetings on Capitol Hill to discuss a piece of legislation that had been introduced in Congress, called the Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act. It would effectively ban sports betting outside the state of Nevada. To hear the politicians tell it, foremost among them Bill Bradley, the New Jersey senator and former New York Knicks star who introduced the legislation, the law was about nothing less than saving the souls of our children. "Our youngsters will be learning to shave points before they're able to shave their beards," howled one lawmaker. But as with any piece of legislation in Washington, there were other hidden forces behind it, perhaps none more influential than the hard lobbying campaign initiated by the multi-billion-dollar horse racing industry. Suddenly, here came the sports league officials to join the lobbyists and lawmakers in their anti-gambling rants, tripping over themselves to rail against this new threat to society, refusing to admit that their sport reaped any benefit, that there was any relationship at all between the popularity of their product and fans' eagerness to toss their favorite team into a 3-team parlay to make their Sundays just a bit more dangerous. The National Football League's television rights deals, coinciding with the rise of Nevada's